Okay. So I just came from Instagram Live. I felt inspired to kind of continue on this live journey right now. So YouTube is the next step. We're here with you, my community. As you start to log on, it's Q&A time. If you have questions, let me know and we'll dive right in. I've been really enjoying my live sessions and getting a lot of great feedback. So if you're coming on here, you have any type of training questions, question about jumping, jump technique, just performance in general, or you just want to know more about myself or Project Pure Athlete, you ask away. I'm just kind of hanging out here. I just rendered part four of our vertical jump overhaul series. So you've probably seen that we had part 1, 2, and 3 up, where we've been working with Haley and Caitlin down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And we are doing what's called a PPA vertical jump overhaul, where I go in, or Coach Chase goes in for a period of 3 days. We kind of do some initial jump testing. We take a look at some of the areas that need to be worked on. And then we go through jump technique interventions. We teach them how to warm up properly. We really dive into what it takes to be a successful leaper and a successful athlete. So I'm super excited to be able to bring the next installment in. So Demarion, it just finished rendering. As soon as I'm done with live, I will upload that video and it'll be on today. So you'll have part 4 today. I'll throw part 5 on tomorrow. I think I can do tomorrow. And part 6 will come on. Let's just go bang, bang, bang. We'll go 1, 2, 3 days in a row. We'll get there's 6 parts in total. So they're coming, and they're coming quick. Bill, how you doing? Definitely loving today. It's a beautiful day here in Canada, where we're from, Windsor, Ontario. The sun is shining. It's warm. I think it's something like 90-ish outside right now. Our weather is like up and down. It's kind of like a bipolar or multiple personality weather, because one day it'll be 70, then it'll be 100, then it'll be 68, then it'll be 90. It's wild. So if you have any questions, let me know. Let me know if you were just on my Instagram Live. If you're coming here from our Instagram community, if you don't follow us on Instagram, go check us out at Project Pure Athlete. We have a big, thriving IG community, and we'd love to have you part of it. Best shoes to dunk in. So Johnson, that's something that's very, individualized. So for me, for the years that I was a pro dunker, I dunked almost exclusively in the Kobe series, like the lows. I really liked a low shoe. For me, was important to have a lot of functional use of my ankle joint. I did track and field for a lot of years, and I think just getting accustomed to doing things in a low cut shoe or sprint spikes, track spikes, made the transition to lows in basketball that much easier. I also played volleyball in Kobe's as well. But find something that's comfortable for you. If you're a jumper that has a longer ground contact time, like if you're a power jumper where you spend a lot more time kind of gathering low into your jump, you can utilize a shoe that has like a bigger cushion, because you're not going to get quite as much of the we call shearing forces in the feet. So when you approach a jump, when you plant your foot, depending how quick you're coming and how much time you spend on the ground, like the shoes will deform, right? So the softer the shoe, the more deformity. You'll also lose a little bit of energy through the shoe. So I like something that was a little bit more solid. We got Akshit Singh. What's your height and what was your highest vertical in your prime? So I am 6 feet tall. I weigh right now 205. When I was competing, I was about 195, 200. So I'm a little bit heavier. At my prime, I had an official measure vertical of 47.5 inches. I've jumped over that on a multitude of occasions, but when it comes down to like quantified, verified vertical, 47.5. Let's call it 48, just to be nice to me. I did track and field for many years as a multi-event athlete, and then as a dunker and a volleyball player. Jumping was my life. Jumping's been my life my whole life. I absolutely eat, sleep, live, breathe, love jumping, if it's not already super evident to all of you. Franco, hi Tyler, I'm doing Project Vertical, the one with weights, so probably the 9-week in season, and I'm having a lot of fun lately. I tried a lot of programs, and PV is the funnest one, or the funniest one. It's either the funnest or the funniest. Either way, we love it. We appreciate your feedback. We love that you're having fun with Project Vertical. To let everybody know on here, we will be releasing our Team PPA remote training app in like 2 weeks or a little bit less than 2 weeks. We're really just going through the last stages of making sure that the process of signing up is seamless. What this will be is you get all your, so we basically slot you into a program stream that's the most appropriate to you, and then your programs progress month to month. This is a month-to-month service. It's $39.95 per month, or you can buy your full year up front and save a bunch of money. You get direct access to myself and Coach Chase. You can submit your videos for review of form. You can submit jump videos for review of form, and it gives you all of the workout tracking so you can see your workouts and how they progress, first day with my new mouth, how they progress over time with like really cool graphs and graphics. It's a really neat program. We're super excited to release that. So if you're kind of on the fence about grabbing a program or something like that, I would wait. If you want to invest your money in the most intelligent way possible, put it into a service that continues to give and grow with you. You know, buying an individual program is great. It's a great start. It's a great kind of spark to your fire. But having that kind of coach in your pocket where we're there with you on your daily journeys, there's nothing that beats that. And we've come in super competitive with our pricing. So we looked around at all the other services, and on average, we're coming in about $10 less per month. So we wanted to be as affordable as possible for athletes that are really serious about progressing. We have, you know, pro athletes that are on there currently testing it out for us. We have our Team PPA sponsored athletes. We just added our kind of last of this wave of Team PPA sponsored athletes in Jonathan Clark, Jay Clark, the jumper, one of the most phenomenal, gifted athletes I've ever known. We've known each other for a long time. John's utilized and been a part of the PPA movement for a while, but now he's like, I'm in, I want on board. And he's going to become a part of Project Pure Athlete in many different ways. He's becoming a certified coach. We're super excited to have him on board. Bill, do volleyball ankle braces take away anything from your vert? So Bill, let me explain. It's a great question. And this is something that I talk a lot about with parents and volleyball coaches when we go in to do workshops. So one of the biggest things to understand about ankle braces is they serve a purpose for post-injury if you're trying to get an athlete back onto the court, right? Ankle braces provide external support to the joint, which takes a little bit of the demand of that joint away. So if someone's sprained their ankle, but they've got to play a game in the next couple of days, strap them up, kind of restricts the movement, takes care of some of that inflammation, and you can progress. That being said, the goal always is to get an athlete out of an ankle brace. Wearing ankle braces as a preventative measure is not something that I recommend as a professional. And any good professional will not recommend that you wear ankle braces to prevent ankle injuries. If anything, wearing an ankle brace consistently over time will increase your chance and likelihood of ankle injury. We think about it in terms of you strap a joint and you create external support of a joint. You downregulate the body's need to provide its own internal support and stability. So what happens is it effectively creates a weaker joint capsule over time. So what I'd recommend is all training outside of gameplay for the next 6 to 8 weeks is come out of the ankle brace and do things very controlled. I would lift out of ankle braces. I would do controlled plyometrics out of ankle braces. If you're putting someone onto the floor to play a game for the short term, if you've been wearing an ankle brace for a long time, put it back on, but you should be progressing out of the ankle brace. Your ankles will get stronger. You'll become a better athlete. So in long story short, do volleyball ankle braces take anything away from your vert? Yeah, absolutely they do. That plus range of motion, very difficult. Volleyball is probably the only sport that I see people they're suggested to get in ankle braces. It's like, especially female volleyball. The amount of female volleyball players wearing ankle braces and knee braces is astounding. And then the question I usually ask is, did you currently sprain your ankle, or is your ankle sprained now? And it's usually no, or how long ago did it happen? Oh, 6 months. Yeah, you should be progressed out of that unless you have some sort of chronic joint issue. The mass majority of time, getting out of the ankle brace is the number one goal and should be for any competent performance or coach or a volleyball coach should refer someone to physio or a strength conditioning coach to help with that process. Hope that helps. And I think you said gotcha. Johnson Smith, is Vert Shock legit? I can't speak to the effectiveness of other vertical jump programs because I don't know what they are. I've heard a little bit about some of these programs. I watch my words very carefully because as someone who does this for a living, in person with athletes on the front lines for many, many years, there are a handful of programs, and I'm not saying VertShock is, I can't speak to it. There are a handful of programs that are designed to just get your money. The programs have been written and designed by a random ghost-written like trainer who just kind of put something together, and they market, and just take your money. What you get with PPA that we can stand behind is that you get the coaches here to be able to answer your questions. You get coaches here that are and have been elite level athletes and know the process. We're never going to give you false claims. We're never going to say, I guarantee that you're going to double your jump or add 15 inches in an X amount of time. It's impossible to do that. You know, wording on, I think, our Project Vertical program was like gain up to 9 inches in 9 weeks. And the only reason I said that is, number one, there's a certain amount of marketing that's required to make some sales, but up to 9 inches is very different than guaranteed 15 inches in whatever time or double your vertical jump. We know that some people can make extraordinary gains in a short period of time, largely because they're just exposing themselves to training for the first time, or we clean up their technique and they're accessing potential that was already in them. We didn't make them stronger. It's impossible to make someone stronger in a few days. What you can make someone in a few days do and do well is be more aware of their body and how to express their own strength. So, you know, does VertShock legit? I don't know. Most things will work, but it's really a question of how long does it work for, and is it the best option for you? How often did you have back tightness when jumping? Shane's a good question. I didn't actually have any back pain until my back finally gave out. I had thrown my back out a couple times over the years doing heavy lifts that really in hindsight weren't necessary. I was just chasing numbers, which is why our programs don't have you chase numbers. They have you understanding how to read your body and perceived exertion rates. When we say like, we want this set to feel like a 9 out of 10, that's like, okay, there's only one left in the tank. And we don't have a need to bring you down to 1 rep maxes. The risk to reward ratio of 1 rep maxes is too much for our liking. And most professional and elite level athletes don't test 1 rep maxes, 3, 5 rep maybe, but you can project 1 rep maxes using the Pelvic scale. So we don't worry about that. That being said, my back didn't hurt. It finally went. I was warming up for an ESPN event in Venice Beach, and I landed off of just a warm-up reverse dunk, and I landed, and I had a tendency to land a little bit more stiff-legged, not like locked out, but just like stiffer because I was a very elastic jumper. So I landed, and when you land without absorbing landing, right, you land with 3 to 5 times the amount of forces that you do when you jump. So it's really not jumping that does the damage, it's the landing that does the damage, which is important why our technique programs build in, you know, learning proper landing mechanics, building in workouts that help build stability and strength to support good landings. And then I landed once and I felt a very localized sharp pain in kind of my left lower back. And I remember thinking like, I'm done, like, you know, and someone's like, oh, you're not going to compete. And I'm like, I think I'm done. I knew something was wrong. Like, I'm very in tune with my body and I knew something was off. I remember my like leg feeling very tingly. And for almost 6 months after that, I had a really difficult time walking comfortably. I'd get a lot of, you know, periphery nerve issues down my left leg. And what happened is I have, excuse me, 2 L5 and S1, S2 anterior lateral herniations, which basically just means the discs are being pushed and forced toward the front and side of my body, which is causing the pain on that side of my body. So, you know, my protocol now for training is largely, you know, lumbo pelvic, like hip and core stability work to be able to support my trunk well. I was tight in some areas that, you know, had over time become more and more of an issue. I was track and field athlete that jumped off my right foot for 15 plus years. Then I became a dunker that jumped primarily off my right left plant for many years. I ran a track in one direction for many years. So all these compensations over time, they eventually, energy's got to go somewhere. And that eventually ended up going straight out my discs and has made the last handful of my years of training frustrating. So I want to use my experience through hardship in the last handful of years to really inform athletes how to avoid a lot of the stuff that I could have avoided if I had had more someone like myself and Coach Chase to guide me through those times. And again, I was a coach this entire time. You tend to have less perspective on yourself, right? You can be the smartest in an area. So like some doctors are the most unhealthy people I've ever met, nurses, because it's easy to tell someone else to take care of themselves. But when it comes down to it, the hardest thing is really to make that conscious effort to do it yourself. So I've tried to really shape and reshape the way I look at things personally now as just an individual. Can't wait for the app. Black Llama, I can't wait for you to be on the app and find out what your actual name is, because I can't imagine it's Black Llama, although that'd be a dope name if you had a name Black Llama. Selman, what's the most used muscle with single leg jump? There are too many that work synergistically to really say any one works the most. I mean, you could read them on an EEG. You could likely find out what that is, but is that important? Like, are you just going to train that one muscle? Really, it's training the entire kinetic chain to support dynamic movement like a 1 foot jump. But I don't know if I had to guess. Could be an aspect of the glute, upper hams. I don't know. There's too many. I haven't actually seen literature on that, to be perfectly honest. I am rooted in science, and I love every now and then diving into some studies. But I'm much more combating this from the front lines of coaching and just helping athletes navigate their journeys. For those that aren't aware, so we were actually the first and only people to conduct a case study on back-end mechanics on jumping and how that affects force output on takeoff of a 2 foot jump. So if anybody is looking to get something like that, what I might do is actually upload the case study video that goes along with the actual case study, and I'll put the link in. You know what I'll do is I'll just put the link to it in this live when it's done, and you can check it out from the link in this live. You can go check out the case study. But it really supported the mass majority of the principles that I've been preaching for many years in terms of jump technique. How to combat knee pain after a workout. So Joshua, the likelihood is if you're experiencing pain after a workout, you're probably likely experiencing some pain before the workout as well, right under the kneecap. Sounds like it's a patellar tendonitis. We have a great video that I made a few weeks ago that is on the channel called How to Fix Your Knee Pain. Go watch that. It's all about jumper's knee and how to combat jumper's knee, and it'll explain it right down to a T, what to do and how to progress over time with that. So go take a look at that, and I wish you a speedy recovery from knee pain. Genetically speaking, what is the lowest possible standing vertical that you might end up with, assuming good training? Don't know. I would just be speculating. That's from Seth Naka. It's very difficult to speculate. I'm sure there are people that in the world that can't physically get their body off the ground. Now, if they have good training, you'd have to consider so many parameters, right? Like age, you'd have to consider training age. You'd have to consider what good training is. Like, good training is so general and broad. I don't know. I really don't know. I think your guess is as good as mine at this point. I tend not to speculate too much. I don't necessarily like putting information out just for attention and stuff like that. We don't do that. We try to give you the actual real answers. Chubbs, the hacker. I love that name. Would you be fine with a basketball player to do bodybuilding type upper body lifting? So yeah, it could be a part of your training. It could be like a phase of training. So bodybuilding type training is what we call hypertrophy training, which is muscle growth. We have to understand is that muscle growth over to functional muscle output, right? So making a muscle bigger doesn't necessarily make it as strong as it can be. Okay, so bodybuilding is an aesthetic sport. It's damage tissue, grow tissue. And it has benefits to strengthening connective tissues, so like tendons. But just because you have big muscles doesn't mean you're going to have the strongest muscles. So one of the things that I always loved was that with the type of training, like you can see now, like I'm obviously not the same athletic specimen as I once was. Not that I ever really was. I was kind of always that guy that people are like, hey, who's that hockey player jumping? But what I'm getting at is, looking the way I did, I could, walk into a gym and outlift the mass majority of people that look like animals because my body worked really well together. So, where someone might be on, repping out 10 reps of 225 on the bench and have this giant chest, I could get on there and do the same, if not more, looking like kind of a lean, normal athlete because I knew how to engage the right muscles to support a bench. So long story short is you could, yes, but that shouldn't be the entirety of your programming, right? You have to keep in mind that a large bodybuilding training is largely uniplanar, which is like moving in one plane of action, right? So like curling, pressing, pulling, pressing, everything is in one direction, where sport is very shifting and dynamic, involves a lot of rotational creation of power and stability through your midline, through the hips and pelvis, and how to translate power from the floor through your body and vice versa. So it needs a little bit more quote unquote functional approach where you can synchronize and sync movements together to build strength in a multitude of ranges so that you have access to a lot of strength in a game situation. Why do we exercise when we Pallof press? So Franco, if the question is like, what is the Pallof press for? Like what type of exercise or how does it benefit you? So a Pallof press is designed to create rotational stability and strength. So a Pallof press is resisting an external lateral force to prevent your body from moving through rotation. So if I anchored a band over here and I held the band in front, that band would be trying to pull me this way. I'd be resisting the band in that direction, creating rotation in the opposite direction. Some people call this anti-rotational training, but really it's just creating rotational stability, and largely amongst the lumbar, the base of the lumbar, and where it meets with your pelvis. We call that lumbo pelvic stability. And that's really integral when it comes down to keeping a healthy spine. You build the musculature up deep in your abdomen that supports your spine so that you don't overload the actual joints itself. So it's just a good way to develop, stability and strength through rotation. And jumping and sports have a huge rotational demand, right? Like, I mean, that's just part of it. Hi, Coach. Hello, MNZ Zamat. Not even sure how to say your name. I apologize. Just watched your video on Jumper Sneak. Great video. What's the typical timeline for resting? That's going to depend on the severity of the tendinopathy in that area. Realistically, it's going to be until you can perform even like a controlled body weight squat without that sharp, like overwhelming pain. If you're moving through a healthy pattern, it shouldn't take any more than a few days. And then, really just you make those steps intuitively based on how you feel, and then taking the ego and like just getting rid of the ego. Because I think that's what happens is so many people are like, I have to progress. I've only been doing this for, I've been doing this for like a week. I'm never going to get back on the court. In the grand scheme of your athletic journey, a month, 6 weeks, 2 months, it's a blip. It's a fart in the wind. It'll be there, it'll be gone, and you'll be stronger for having taken the time to be patient. I'm not going to train just one muscle, but I was interested if you knew that fact. Yeah, I really don't offhand know that fact. It's just not something that I've ever necessarily been interested in. I just we're so focused on just training the entire athlete, train your general full capacity, and things like 1 foot jumping will get better. You have to understand too, like training your general strength and stability allows you to be able to jump off one leg more frequently. And as a result, you'll just get better at jumping off of 1 foot. So I'm always scared of coming at a high speed into the 2 foot jump penultimate step because I do practice barefoot, and I'm scared that my ankle would twist to the plant. What should I do? I would recommend, if you're training your jump, is try to get yourself a pair of shoes Number 2 is going to be only at the speed that you can control. So we call that your maximum controlled velocity. This is for per NEMA. We have to establish our maximum controlled velocity. If someone's telling you just to go as fast as possible, it's bad advice. Okay, like more speed doesn't always equate to jumping higher, especially if you can't support the speed. It's about finding that balance of how much speed you can control and then really milking that balance through transition and good position. So yeah, I would just suggest trying to jump less in bare feet. Like you still can jump in bare feet off grass and just to supplement your jumping. But if your goal is to jump off of, hard surface and shoes, you still need to practice that at times so that you get a good understanding. Because what'll happen is your jump will look different in bare feet versus shoes, because shoes provide a different type of friction and support that you can attack the jump a little bit differently. Chubbs. Why does jumps by Chi go so low when he dunks? Is he genetically predisposed to it? So there'll be part genetics and then also part circumstance. So he's been training in those ranges for a long, long time. If you look at his progression over time, he didn't always jump that low. He's progressed by putting himself under consistent loading in those positions and just becoming very powerful, practicing that. Now, should people go out and try to jump like that? No, you find that pocket of depth that's comfortable for you, because that's going to differ person to person. She is a very power-oriented athlete, meaning that he takes a higher ground contact time to produce the relative power to get off the ground, versus someone like myself when I jumped, a very elastic jumper, which means that I was on the ground super fast, very reactive. So a lot of like tendon kinetic energy versus just like muscles and having to stretch and flex over a larger range of motion. So he's a phenomenally talented athlete, but he's an outlier. He's definitely an outlier. So he's not something that you would want to model your own training after in terms of like technique, but his work ethic and the amount of work he puts in, absolutely want to model that. So Chi is definitely, he's one of our team PPA athletes, and he's a phenomenal guy. For left-right jumping, what leg is used more? My right leg is bigger than my left. Can muscle imbalance be an issue? So if you're a left-right jumper, we have to consider that the last two steps of jumping, right, the plant and the block, right, the second last and the last contact, we found conclusively through our study is that the plant foot, the first of the two, so in your case, your left leg, would be more concentrically focused, which means it's more of a pushing muscle, a power muscle, or a power leg, versus the block, the last foot, is eccentric in nature. It's a braking mechanism. It provides a sharp brake to transition into the vertical. So if you watch a really good jumper, you'll see this big push. You'll see them load into that first step. So that's putting that muscle under a great deal of tension, and then they're pushing out with that leg, and then that last foot comes down and it punches the ground with that nice aggressive application. Gives you that kind of competing force back to the hip. And then you get this transitional vector that sends the athlete into the vertical. So the first of the two, your left in that case, would tend to be the strongest concentric mover, and then the block could very well be the stronger eccentric component. All right, sorry, I'm trying to catch up. A lot of questions, and I try to answer all of them. So. Thank you, Pradima, for the compliments. I appreciate that. Andrew Lane, my jump is left, right, my stiffly large. Okay, man, I wrote it wrong. Sorry, Franco. That's okay. You're all good. You're all good. Can you make a tutorial on how to throw self alley-oops? Yeah, absolutely. So Coach Chase, the other half of PPA, is actually an NBA, one of the only official NBA dunk coaches. So he actually worked and helped the last, I think, 4 out of 5 NBA dunk champions win the dunk contest, along with Chuck Milan of Team Flight Brothers. So he's a great, great dunk coach. I myself have, very familiar with throwing lobs. That's how I did as a pro dunker for many, many years. And I've worked with a lot of athletes on that as well. So yeah, if we can get access to a court and do some filming, it's in the future for sure. Plus we've added Jonathan Clark as a team PPA athlete. So we're going to be, making programs and stuff with him down the road. So you'll have a lot of access to really good content, and yeah, we'll go from there for sure. I'm just reading through these questions. I'm just trying to find something that is not a repeat. Yeah, a lot of people just giving Shi that respect. He's a phenomenal athlete. Do jumpers and dunkers get more bounce in the gyms, or same as indoor outdoor courts? Definitely more indoor. So you have to think about the way that the um, oh, 4 for 4. Is that Chase? My bad. 4 for 4. Okay, where was I? Where am I here? I was saying something. Oh, indoor, outdoor. So indoor, the way the court's constructed is largely based on built up above a subfloor. So subflooring does provide a little bit more kind of kinetic return than a hard asphalt surface, where and it's also a little bit harder on the body. So most good jumpers, if not all, will jump a little bit higher off of hardwood versus like a concrete floor. Yeah. Tips on getting upper body more straight during the penultimate steps. So kind of that chest up version during that push is really just going to be patterning that position through our penultimate push punch drill, where you're just pushing and covering distance and then applying that last step. What you can do to kind of get some kind of reinforcement or tactile reinforcement is we have a video on the YouTube called Banded Overspeed Approaches. And what it's really good at, along with conditioning the body to absorb more force, is it's good at providing kind of feedback to the body to allow you to stay a little bit taller through that push. Now, understanding when I say taller through that stride is not saying vertical through your whole body, right? The hips are still going to lower as we push through that penultimate stride and we lower into the position of our plant foot. But what it will do is it will kind of allow you to get comfortable with getting the torso a little bit taller, so that when you make contact with your plant foot and your block, you're able to recover and establish a more vertical stacked position earlier in that plant sequence before taking off. So go check that video out. Okay. Where are we at here? I'm coming down. How do we shift our strength velocity curve to the right? Do we need to train at all spectrums of the curve? If we just train in the power portion, will that shift the entire curve? So the strength velocity curve is really just a measure or a graphic representation of different areas to train in. To say, like, to be able to get further into the curve, like, you're not just going to simply train that area of the curve. You need to create a base general strength to be able to support moving loads and moving your body at a higher rate of speed over those ranges of motion. So it's a variety of training training protocols in the various degrees of that strength speed curve, or strength velocity curve, I should say. Do I have a favorite, greatest of all time student, like some athlete or client that had a huge impact on my career? I like the way you approach education. Thank you, Franco. I appreciate that. I've worked with many athletes over the last 16 years. There's not been one athlete that sticks out that stands above the rest. I think there are a handful of athletes that were very integral in providing me the opportunities to experiment and kind of grow my craft over the years. And there's too many to name. I've worked every single athlete I have an opportunity to work with. I consider my athlete, even if it's just for a split second. Like, I consider people that are in my workshops. Like, I tell people, you can reach out to me. If you have questions, let me know. Like, I try to be there for people as much as possible, sometimes to the detriment of my time and my wife, saying, can you please put your phone away? But I have a hard time saying no. So I love all the athletes I work with, and every athlete has had a part in helping me grow as a professional. Wait, how do we get more elastic and reactive like you? Single and two, like, okay, so Selman, now you can definitely improve your reactive capacity. But when I say I'm a reactive or an elastic jumper, it's that kind of on a physiological level or neurological level, my body is kind of naturally catered more towards that type of output, meaning that no matter how I train, my body's always going to jump its highest when it sources reactive or elastic strength. Some athletes are the other kind of end of the spectrum, and it exists on a spectrum, right? Coach Chase, who's maybe still on here, whose name is Project Pure Athlete Jump Guy Chase, 4 for 4 is not his name, but he's more of a power athlete, meaning that we can have similar setups to the way we train, but like reps, variations of movement might change a little bit, and then loading of movements might change a little bit. What you're trying to do is really preserve the athlete's nervous system so that they can express their power at the highest level possible. Someone like Chase, jumps his highest after playing like a full game of basketball, really warm, muscles are really full of blood, a little bit, there's a little bit of fatigue built in there, but jumps better because his ranges of motion are a little bit more able to express jumping. Whereas if I try to play a basketball game and jump high, my nervous system would be so gassed that like the sensitivity to the stretch reflex would be dampened for me, and I'd have a very hard time jumping high. So you find out kind of where you are in that spectrum simply by taking a look at the way you express your jump. So do you spend a lot of time on the ground when you jump? Are you comfortable bringing in a decent amount of speed to your jump? Like, what are your numbers of strength like? You learn just by, like, we're putting together some parameters to help people, I think, sift through that information a little bit more concisely. But everybody can improve reactive strength. It's just a matter of like, maybe that reactive strength isn't as relevant for you as it would be for another athlete. So that's just, plyometric based and sprint based drills help to create that reactive capacity, getting off the ground quickly, pogo hops, drop jumps, varying degree of depth jump, sprinting, lateral movements, things like that get you off the ground quick. For me, if I lift a lot, like if I lift heavy and I lift a lot of weights, I tend not to be able to jump as high as I would if I had some lifting and a lot of like athletic based expression, sprinting and more reactive components. Okay. Should you be jumping and dunking on the same day as doing a workout? You can, absolutely. I mean, I think if it comes down to, if you have a competition that day, maybe not. But if you're training just to jump higher at times, like, you just still have fun and still be an athlete, right? Which means that try it. Lift in the morning, jump in the evening, see how your body responds to it. Some people with a little bit of potentiation of some power lifts early in the morning or the day before jump higher as a result. So play around with it and see how your body responds to it. Good question. Oh yeah, Joe. Do you like Nick Britz? I don't know him personally. I have not had a good experience with him through Instagram and direct messaging. A couple of years ago, he's a phenomenal athlete, really, really talented jumper. But I don't know him well enough to say I like him or not. I just don't do business with him. Sorry if I ask a lot. It's okay, man. It would be cool if you could tell us about you for a minute. Like, are you married? I noticed that you're okay. Do you have a child? Your studies, etc. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I am married. We actually just had our 3rd year anniversary. My wife's name is Kelly, and she's a phenomenal human being. We have a almost 8-month-old child named Jordan, and he's a handful. He's moving around now, so he's impossible to keep in one place. He doesn't really like to cuddle and chill. He just wants to move constantly, which is like me and Kelly when we were kids. We have a dog named Lincoln. It's like a golden doodle, but he's black, and he's pretty awesome too. We live in a kind of a smaller house in Windsor, Ontario, and I just love coaching, and I love I like the interaction between coach and athlete and coach. It's such a great industry and a great environment. It provides me peace. I share this information with a handful of people over the years, but I deal with anxiety disorder, believe it or not, even though I'm quite confident in what I do, that this gives me the ability to express myself at the level I know I'm capable of. And I'm much more comfortable in my environment, in and around people, than I am in a social situation. So it's something that I was quite embarrassed of for many, many years. But, I think 4 years ago, I just finally had enough of it and went and sought help and talked and really found out that this is something that is manageable. And it's something that I want to help other people progress through as well, because I know that athletes, there are many athletes that deal with high levels of anxiety, and when you carry high levels of anxiety as an athlete, it can adversely affect you if you don't know how to manage those feelings on a physiological level, on a physical level. And it did for me. I never really knew what that was for many, many years. So knowing that now, I'd love to be able to help people early on navigate those waters. So that's a little bit about me. If you have any specific questions, feel free to ask. My favorite color is, I don't even know if I have a favorite, maybe green. I just saw it right there. Does jumping on concrete translate to jumping on a basketball court, or is the hardness detrimental to joint health? There's nothing wrong with jumping off of concrete. Just don't do it all the time. As a jumper, you're going to be inspired to jump a lot. You're going to be inspired to walk into any room and immediately look up for things to touch and jump. And that's a jumper's intuition, right? I think that's what is part of a really good jumper, is they have that built-in desire to be better. And that's what fuels people to get better over time, is that kind of burning passion. So if you're on concrete, jump on it. Just understand that keep volume low and make sure you've really warmed up and take care of your body. And that means also what you put in, lots of water, and make more good decisions than bad, and you'll come out on top. As I sip water, what would be good to set off while? What would be good to set off while jumping? I tend to jump from my toes, but I also heard some people saying jump from the heels. Now, you don't jump from your heels. Your heels might come in contact for a brief second, but the power is translated through the ball of the foot and largely through the strong, or that inside edge of the foot down the actual plantar fascia, or the arch of the foot. That arch mechanism is very powerful when it comes to jumping. So you don't want to be striking with the foot, but it should feel natural as you're part of your stride. So as you push through that penultimate stride, you might roll quickly from heel to toe, but you definitely don't want to slam heel first, or you're going to end up with some bigger problems for sure. Bill, and very common. I imagine you're talking about the anxiety stuff. Is very, very common, and more common than I realized. I think I always placed myself emotionally into a state where I was I'm just weaker than other athletes mentally, where I didn't realize that other people didn't know what it was either. So it was one of those things where I had to learn how to let myself off the hook. At times it's very, very elevated anxiety levels to the point where it affected other parts of my life, pretty detrimentally. But now that I've learned some strategies to manage and deal with it, my life is much easier to navigate. My relationships are more fulfilled, both my wife and my friends and my family. And I'm just excited to see what the future holds. I'm be 36 years old this year. I have a lot of years to go, and I think the lessons that I've learned up to now will not only benefit myself, but they'll hopefully help benefit many athletes. You're welcome. Take it easy. Thank you. Would you say lean upper body mass assists in the translation of horizontal force to vertical force, i.e. Russell Westbrook and John? 100%. The entire body works together when you jump, right? There's no just legs, just core, just train this, just train that. You just need to train yourself as an athlete. The arms and the upper body help to complement impulse on takeoff. They help to complement power that is exerted into the ground and thus returned. So if you have a stronger, more functional and athletic upper body, specifically stability through the upper back and shoulders, with a complemented mobility in those same areas, you're going to be able to exhibit high levels of power that most definitely will translate into jumping. Does the plant foot touch the ground heel first? Oftentimes it does, but it transitions through the heel pretty quickly, so you're not going to experience a ton of force to the heel. You'll get kind of more of an ergonomically friendly heel toe strike, similar to how your normal gait or your walk would be. So if you watch any good jumper, if you pause that moment of contact with their plant foot, it's normally heel strike, and then it rotates to the outside edge. So we go through supination and then into pronation through that medial arch. Is jumping rope good for your vert? Yeah, it's definitely something that you could place in as a good part of like a warm up or on an off day, just for some kind of like low level plyometric reps. Again, it's like a little bit less, violent to the body on a whole, so you can accumulate a lot of reps and really build up some of the resiliency and things like, your tendons and your joint structures. All right, we're pretty caught up. I got through most of those questions. That's awesome. A reminder: our Team PPA training app, our remote training app, is going to be dropping in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to continue to drop information and come on live and answer questions over the next couple of weeks. But when it drops and ready, it's $39.95 a month, and you can cancel at any time. It's our job and our goal to show you that it's a really good investment and should be part of your progression as an athlete. So even if you have a high school team with someone that gives you workouts, at least now these workouts are coming from professionals in this field, largely people that are informing the coaches that are giving you stuff otherwise. So come to the source, let us manage you as athletes, and we'll do a good job. So I think my son is just up from a nap, so I could hear him. See that? That's the monitor. Hold on. That's the monitor. He's whining. All right. Are there exercises you would avoid? I think everything could potentially be programmed into a program, but I don't think everything should. I think we have to keep in mind is that all exercises are designed to elicit a stimulus from the body, a response or a feedback, or they're designed to make you perform a certain pattern of movement. And there are multiple movements that can have that same effect. I would say a good example is something like cleans, like Olympic lifting. There are a lot of people that say you have to Olympic lift or clean in order to jump higher. That's just not the case. Are they is a clean a good exercise? 100%, great movement. But what is a clean designed for? Clean is designed for you to express powerful, violent, and aggressive hip extension when it comes down to it, because there are a lot of factors in a clean that come down to the technical components of performing the lift, meaning like the actual second pull and the catch in the front rack and then standing that load up is really it's individual to the sport of weightlifting. When it comes down to jumping, what we're trying to do is get powerful extension through the hip. So you can get that from a multitude of exercises. It doesn't have to be a clean. Clean also, from a technical side of things, is quite technical. So if you don't have your technique dialed in, you're not getting what you need to get out of the clean. So I'm not saying don't do cleans. I'm just saying keep in mind that when you're doing a movement, what it's designed for, and are you performing it right, and is there a better option? Can you go into depth of what your training program includes? So the Team PPA training app, aside from giving you all the programming, because that's just not going to happen, it's going to tackle the entire athlete. So you will be taken care of both from strength, power, speed, stability, agility, mobility, flexibility, all the ilities will be taken care of. But the cool part of this training application is you get all of your daily workouts. You have your ability to track all of your workouts so we can see progression over time. We have some what we call key performance indicators that are asked before every workout: stress level, mood levels. We can find out how ready you are for certain workouts. And then you're advised if maybe that workout is not a good idea for you. You also have access to over 1,000 video in our video library. So if there's a movement that doesn't work well for you, you can swap movements out very, very simply. It's a really accessible application. You get direct access to the coaches, including myself and Coach Chase, and we're going to be onboarding other coaches down the road. So it's one of those things to keep in mind that you have a great deal of value behind. I got about 1 minute. I just saw my wife come try to grab me. So you're asking for a bit too much, Scott. No, I'm not going to give programming. That's kind of one of those things that's proprietary to our programs. Just understand that we have multiple years of experience and we work with athletes of all levels, including all the way up to the professional ranks. So you're in good hands. What would be good training for short people? So whether you're short or tall, training is going to look relatively the same. Some movements might be substituted depending on what the training effect needs to be, but knowing that you're short shouldn't change the approach to training. It should just motivate you just the same. LOL, free information, man. Yes, but piecing together free information and trying to create programs for yourself oftentimes can put you in the opposite direction, because the way programs are designed are intuitively designed to build off each other and provide and elicit physiological stimulus that is required to perform the next movement with the right training effects. So keep in mind that when we put something in place, it's put in place for a reason. And I think what happens a lot of times is people search for like this exercise, this exercise, this exercise, and they just throw them down on a sheet and they're like, I'll just do all these. And what happens is some of the exercises are competing physiologically with each other, and you're not getting the training effect that's desired. There's a reason why like good coaches are good coaches, is because there's a certain level of understanding that is required to piece together good programming and also to know how to coach well. Scott, how would one join your team of coaches? So if you're interested in becoming a Project Pure Athlete certified coach, you have to take a PPA level 1 certification. We have an online one coming up on June 28th. If you're interested in that, send me an email, projectpureathlete@gmail.com, and I'll send you over the link that you can sign up for. It's over Zoom. It's a full day. The in-person experience, which you can wait for if you want, is a 2-day in-person experience that is, it's a phenomenal opportunity to spend some time with us as coaches and other people that are kind of in the same boat as you. The certification gives you a lot of tools for your belt that help you to build and kind of create a denser business platform to be able to grow. So just, being able to assess, analyze, and troubleshoot in the field of jumping and jump training is something that will take you really far and pay for itself over and over again. So just let me know if you email projectpureathlete@gmail.com and let me know that you were on our live, and we'll send you the link over. What are your thoughts on peaking an athlete to jump really well on a specific date? James, that's very traditional, like track and field training, and some of our programs have that built in. 1 second. I know there are a lot of programs and trainers that train that way. It's a perfectly fine way to train. Not always the most feasible way to train if you're a team sport athlete, which is why Coach Chase is on board now and does such a phenomenal job as a very high-level basketball player and strength coach of figuring out how to appropriately assign workouts for athletes that are in season and can make gains in season, but also not jeopardize their game. So those types of programs are great if what you're doing entirely is that type of training to jump higher, like a pro dunker would thrive off of that type of training. But if you're a basketball or volleyball player, in my opinion, there are other setups that could benefit you even more. Take it easy. I appreciate it, and take it easy. Okay, I have to take off. I appreciate everybody for spending some time with me today. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Go follow us on Instagram at Project Pure Athlete and get excited for the Team PPA app. We can't wait to have all of you, some of you, hopefully most of you, as our athletes and as Team PPA athletes. We'll talk to you soon. Much love.